A video game's controls are pretty much the only way a player has to interact with it. It would make sense to say that these controls need to feel right, but what that means can be pretty vague and depends a lot on what the game actually is. Most genres at this point generally have a pretty standardized control scheme. For example, first-person shooters use the sticks to move and look around, the face buttons to do whatever context-sensitive interactions the game has, and the triggers to aim and shoot. But there are a number of games that take an approach of intentionally making their controls obscure, unique, or just frustrating. Bennet Foddy's Baby Steps and Getting Over It, Pogostuck, a difficult game about climbing, I Am Bread, Egging On, QWOP, Octodad. All of these are games that I would describe as having unique control schemes. And the uniqueness of their control schemes is kind of the whole gimmick of the thing. A major aspect of the difficulty curve of these examples is taking the time to get used to the game's obscure control scheme. Once you do, the game's able to throw challenges at you that require a deeper understanding of them. In Getting Over It, for example. Hi, editing EP Jank here. Funny story, I'd never played Getting Over It before making this video, but I wanted to get some footage of it for this, so I was like, okay, either I just take some footage from someone else's playthrough, or I just buy the game and play it for like 20 minutes and then refund it. But I didn't really want to do either of those things, so I bought the game and I was like, okay, I'll just play it for a couple of hours and get past the first like actually hard part and record some footage of later on in the game so I don't look like a poser. But then there was never really a part that was like that crazy hard. Like the one part that was tough and punishing was this one part right after the orange, which I didn't even record. So I was like, okay, I'll get past this hard part and then I'll stop playing. So I spent like 5 hours total getting past that part. And then once I did, I realized that I was like almost done with the game. And I only fell to before that point once. And within like half an hour, I was done. And I didn't even record like any of it except for the very end and this one part of me pogoing off the orange cabinet. And then my arm just really hurt by the end of it. I don't know, this isn't really relevant. I just kind of thought it was funny, but we're gonna go back to the video now. You're stuck in a cauldron with a hammer and you have to use your mouse or a joystick to rotate that hammer in order to pull yourself up a mountain. Relatively simple in concept, but one thing you can also do that takes a bit of learning is place your hammer under you and then push it down really fast, effectively performing a jump. This on its own isn't too complicated, but then adjusting your hammer to catch yourself on something can really take a decent amount of skill. But which of these games is the best? Getting Over It is probably the most well-known, and Baby Steps was a worthy successor. I Am Bread is an absolute classic, but QWOP, which was also made by Bennet Foddy, has been out since 2008. They've all got a lot going for them, and I think the only way to decide is to cast a vote. So without further ado, I'd like to present the winner of the EP Jank Award for the best game with an unconventional control scheme by just one vote, I'm being told. Oh, it's one vote because I was the only vote, and this is like a stupid fucking joke and like doesn't actually make any sense. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Anyways, the winner is Robot Alchemic Drive. Robot Alchemic Drive, or RAD, was released in 2002 for the PS2, blah blah blah, fucking whatever, I'm not that kind of channel. What actually is this game? Because I was first introduced to it by that clip of that anime girl being hit by a car and then walking to a vegetable stand and saying,
"It is cheaper to buy vegetables here."
That and a number of clips of Nanao's place of employment being blown up.
I found work at the bakery close by. Can you walk me there? No! The bakery! That's where I work!
So I saw these and I thought, it's probably just your average JRPG or visual novel that got localized with shitty voice acting. But then I read a description of the game, and I forgot where I found it or who wrote it, but it described the gameplay as something like controlling a mech from the perspective of a human on the ground with controls like I Am Bread. And I mean, that's exactly what it is. So allow me to very briefly explain the controls so that you have a sense of what this game is like. First, you use the left and right bumpers to lift and move forward each leg respectively. So hold LB and your left leg starts moving forward, let it go and it drops. Then hold RB to do the same thing with your right leg, and that's the basics of how you crouch, which you can rhythmically hold and release LB and RB. You can also still control your arms at the same time, which lets you jump to the left. You can't act down on them until you wipe different buttons. You may let go, or basically just like more damage. The face buttons all do something the same one. Basically, you use the triggers and bumpers to control the mech's legs and the sticks to control its arms. So going back to like why this kind of game even exists. In my video about difficulties in games, I said that people generally don't like doing hard things for no reason. So if we're gonna make the entire control scheme difficult to use, we've got to make sure that it at least feels good when you get it right. A big thing that this game does really well is visual and auditory feedback. When you take your first step in the tutorial, the camera shakes, it makes a big booming, crashing noise, and you can really feel the weight of the entire mech coming down on the ground in front of you. And then every step you take for the rest of your time playing the game still feels like that. There's really no way to explain how it feels to walk your giant robot down a long straight road chasing after another giant robot from space. That and the sense of scale is pretty amazing. I mean, I guess it would come naturally because the mechs are like over 100 feet tall, but the fully destructible environment also helps a lot. And the feedback for actually landing an attack on the enemy is also amazing. The game activates a sort of cinematic camera, which gives you a good view of your target getting knocked down. Beyond even all that, the controls, despite being intentionally convoluted, do feel natural and make sense intuitively. I made the joke of over-explaining the controls the way the game does, but for the most part, it really is just bumpers to move each leg forward, triggers to move each leg back, and sticks to control the arms. There's a few more helpful things like D-pad to rotate the upper body and combined inputs for special attacks and jumping, but those also come pretty naturally once you understand the basic controls. Has anyone aside from me actually played this game, by the way? I know Game Grumps covered it like a year and a half ago, but apparently they skipped the tutorial, didn't even get close to finishing it, and also forgot how to play between every episode. But it makes me extremely sad because there's a local multiplayer mode in the game, which sounds so fun, but I think I might never meet someone in real life who would actually play this game with me. Please comment if you've played this game. I need to know that I'm not getting too niche here. Or comment if you are now going to play this game. One thing I've been ignoring so far is the game's human character controls, because they're not as good. For the human sections, Rad uses what's called tank controls. Not those kinds of tanks. Well, yes, those kinds of tanks. But you're not playing as a tank, you're playing as a person. And that's kind of exactly the problem. Okay, you know how in most modern games you point the left stick in the direction you want to move and the right stick in the direction you want to look, and your character moves in the position the left stick is pointing relative to the camera's rotation? Yeah, older games usually didn't do that. Generally, they use the control scheme in which you can only actually move forwards and backwards, sometimes left and right using the bumpers, but moving the stick left and right just rotates you, which is nowadays referred to as tank controls. From a modern perspective, tank controls are pretty bad in most scenarios, especially in a game like Rad. Is it ironic that I hate unintuitive tank controls despite loving the weird, complicated mech controls of this game? No, tank controls still suck, let me explain myself. The reason I like the mech controls so much really just boils down to the fact that despite them being complicated, they're oddly natural and realistic feeling for controlling a mech. Controlling a human character like a tank does not feel like that. In real life, we're naturally able to walk around and look around independently without any kind of effort or thought, which is why the modern twin stick, point the look stick where you want to look and point the move stick where you want to move control scheme feels right. Now, this isn't to say that tank controls can never feel right. For example, in old horror games like the original Silent Hill trilogy and the original Resident Evil games, the generally tight corridors and close-up encounters with enemies made this make a lot more sense. It can serve as a gameplay element which adds stress through the feeling of a lack of natural control, which supports the horror aspect of these games. That and the fixed camera angles made it so that when you enter a room and the camera angle switched, holding forward would always keep you moving in whatever direction forward was. The reason it doesn't work in Rad is because Rad doesn't have any of this. The whole point of being able to move around on the ground as a human is so that you can position yourself in a good spot to view your mech from. So you should be able to get around quickly and efficiently in this mode. After all, this isn't where you're supposed to be fighting against the controls, the mech sections are. Unfortunately though, tank controls were just kind of the norm back then, and the more modern character controller setup hadn't really escaped the bubbles of platformers and PC games yet. So it's not totally fair to judge the game for this beyond just saying it hasn't aged well. As I was saying before though, the mech sections more than make up for that. So if you have any thoughts about other cool games like this, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and thank you for watching. For example, first-person shooters use the sticks to move and look around. I should get a controller, that would be a great visual. But there are a number of games that intentionally take an approach of maybe I should get a teleprompter. But those also come pretty naturally once you understand the basic controls. Okay, you know, fucking goddammit, I have to grab the controller again. Yeah, older games usually didn't do that. Fuck, I have to get it again.